And author of Trump and the American Future, Newt Gingrich, who joins us from Rome. Newt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So what do you make of what we continue to see regarding these statues being taken down? Over the weekend, you got Columbus and then Frederick Douglass.
Well, look, I think the president, in his amazing speech at Mount Rushmore, which I think may have been the most important presidential speech since Ronald Reagan at Westminster in 1982, really began to tell the truth and lay it out in a way that's going to make the New York Times and the Washington Post and the major media very, very uncomfortable. Liberalism has been transformed into anti-Americanism. You're dealing with mobs. You had a 7-year-old killed in Chicago, an 8-year-old killed in Atlanta. These are not killed by policemen. These are killed by predators. And people talk about reducing the number of police, which is going to increase the number of murders. No one has the right to tear down any statue. You have every right to petition the government, and if you're successful, the government can move the statue, the government can destroy the statue, but no mob has the right to select who they want to destroy. And at some point, we're going to have the kind of intervention where people just start getting locked up in large numbers and they get sent away for a very long time. In the late 60s, when we had 2,500 bombings, ultimately it was broken because we, in fact, locked people up. And these were bad people. The people who were throwing these statues are bad people. People killing these young girls are bad people. And Trump had the guts to say it when he was speaking Saturday night in South Dakota.
Yeah, and by the way, it was pretty swift, the rejection of that speech as bad and divisive from the New York Times and Washington Post, which prompted the Wall Street Journal to say, who was so critical of the president 2 weeks ago, to say basically, Angelo Dundee to Sugar Ray Leonard against Tommy Hearns, you're blowing it, basically, by the way you're campaigning and governing of late. They came out and said it was one of just what you said about the speech, but the bias was shown in the review of it. It's in the New York Times. His speech exploits race to stoke fear in whites. The front page of the Times also says, as the virus rages, his poll numbers slipped. He wants to talk about a carnage redux, I guess, bringing back his speech at his inaugural. But Joe Biden had an interesting take on it. He said, we're going to beat Donald Trump, and when we do, we won't just rebuild this nation, we'll transform it. Do you know what he means by that?
Sure. I think if you look at the 97-second 4th of July message from Biden, which is the most anti-American message any presidential candidate has ever given. I went back and looked at Obama for 8 years. Obama sounded more like Trump than he sounded like Biden. I mean, Biden's 97 seconds is filled with hatred for America and disgust with America. And I think Biden has now basically accepted the entire anti-American left's vision. And what he means by that is they're going to take over the country. They're going to close down the right of free speech. They're going to take care of the teachers' union rather than students. They're going to do anything they have to do to make sure that they never lose again. And then Pelosi's already given you a $3 trillion blueprint, which Biden has already said he would sign, which includes, for example, $1,200 checks to stimulate illegal immigration. So every illegal immigrant would automatically get a $1,200 check. So if you think that's a good idea, you have a team over there with Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer. They'll be happy to transform America.
So I want to talk to you about Fox Nation, and I know you have a new show on there. It's called Crisis 2020. Tell us about it. I think we have a clip of it. Let's watch it, and then we'll get your reaction on the back end.
Americans have watched left-wing radicals burn down buildings, loot businesses, destroy private property.
Donald Trump has turned this country into a battlefield riven by old resentments and fresh fears.
So I know the show's about some of the big challenges that our country faces. What are some of those, Newt?
Well, look, I think we have challenges, everything from crime, where the Democrats favor criminals over the police, to schools, where the Democrats favor the teachers' union over children learning, to getting our economy growing again, to dealing with China, where the Democrats have consistently kowtowed to Beijing, and where Trump has shown the courage to stand up to the Chinese dictatorship. I think you can go through item after item to the basic values, as your last guest was saying, and I agree with her entirely. I do admire, by the way, that she's raising 9 children, which is amazing. but her point was the schools are now riven, not with liberalism, but with anti-Americanism. And you have a generation being taught to dislike in their own country. And I think these kind of challenges are very real. I also think you have a challenge of making sure that we help the poorest Americans. When you look at the murder rate in Chicago, you look at the rising murder rate in New York, part of it, not all of it, but part of it is that these are neighborhoods of despair, and we ought to have a much more bold and dramatic approach to trying to help people break out and be able to pursue happiness, earn a decent living, and have a better future for their children.
Well, if people are watching and would like to see your Fox Nation special, Crisis 2020, just download Fox Nation to watch it. Sign up today and get your first month for 99 cents. Newt Gingrich joining us today. By the way, check out his new book, Trump, the American Future, on sale now. Newt, thank you very much.
Great. Good to be with you.